This conference will now be recorded.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay. Okay, good evening all. We shall start. Chadurmukha Samarambham Vagbhadacharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryandam Vande Guru Paramparaham Ragadirogan Sadatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutan Asheshan Aulsukyamoha Aradidan Jaghana Yo Purva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. Now, today we will be seeing three conditions. First of all, where annam, aharam, becomes apatkari or mrutyukari or rogakari, and such situations that actually we were seeing many such situations earlier, and here a set of three conditions which were not discussed earlier and which were not included in any of the previous descriptions. That set of three conditions that is going to be explained here. Mishram pathyam apathyam cha bhuktam samashanam matam vidyad adhyashanam bhuyo bhuktasyobari bhojanam akale bahu cha alpam va bhuktam tu vishamashanam. The first three lines of the sloka which we are supposed to discuss today. Here I mentioned that these conditions are special because it is mentioning about not about the matra specifically, but another three conditions or other three conditions or a different set of issues. The first we find samashanam. Aharam is the sole reason for the health as well as the disease. We all know it. Ahara sambhavam vastu rogascha ahara sambhavaha. Hitahita visheshacha vishesha sukha dukkhayoho. And in the beginning, we also went through the 7 types of mithyayogam or that asamyak yogam of Ashan, where Hemadri was highlighting Sankirnasanam, Viruddhasanam, Amatrasanam, Ajirnasanam, Samashanam, Adhyasanam, Vishamasanam cha idi. So these three were listed there by Hemadri. Now we are going through what it is, how it is to be understood, all these things. So first of all, we find Samashanam. Mishram pathyam apathyam cha bhuktam samashanam matam. Pathyam apathyam cha mishram bhuktam. Mishram mixed together, combined together. Mishram pathyam apathyam cha. So there is a combination, a mixture of pathyam and apathyam. And when we eat such a mixture, such a combination, that is called samashanam. Pathyam and apathyam. These are very commonly used terms in our literature, and even otherwise, not in literature, in practice also. Pathyam, while we are prescribing, other than the medicine, we suggest some sort of a ahara, achara, vihara, vichara list, certain things which will in more than one way help in the healing process. In the treatment of all diseases, which is given in a sort of a capsule form, we see the importance of understanding the nidana vishesham. Nidana vishesham. Tasmad vigara pragradir adhisthana andarani cha buddhva hedu visheshamscha shikhram guryad upakramam. So hedu vishesham. Why you should know hedu vishesham, and what is this hedu? This hedu is what we have seen in that swabhavoparamam. Jayande hedu vaishamyad vishama dehadhadavaha hedu samyal sama. So there is always hedu, cause for any karyam. When the karyam is rogam, you find roga nidanam. When the karyam is arogyam, you find arogya nidanam. So in any intervention intending a return to health from the so-called domain of vyadhi, you should modify the nidanam, isn't it? Which we discussed in detail. So for that we use pathyam. Pathyam, that way, that is one application of pathyam. That way, pathyam is modifying the roga nidanam to arogya nidanam. Pathyam is modifying the roga nidanam to arogya nidanam. Then there are many other ideas behind it. Aushadhanna viharanam upayogam sukhavaham upashayam. Pathyam is sometimes used as a synonym for chikilsa. Chikilsidam hidam pathyam. Prayaschittam bhishajidam bheshajam shamanam shastam. All these things are or can be seen used as paryaya of chikilsitam or chikilsa. Then while using or employing certain types of treatment methods, say for example you're going for a shodhana chikilsa or some other kriya kramam, then we suggest something which will make sure that there is no chances of vyapat, and there is every possibility of that procedure going through well and ending up in the desired outcome. So we make some sort of a pathya nirdesham for that. Ushnodagopachari syad brahmachari shapashayaha navegarodhi, like that. So that is also pathya in that context. So pathyam we already saw in many different contexts and many different hues or shades of meaning. while using certain dravyas, certain restrictions or certain advices regarding the dietary pattern, that is the ahara as well as vihara, will be given. Certain things will be restricted also. So there also we say that this is the pathya nirdesham. Pathya nirdesham is a general term where we use advising the pathya and discouraging the use of apathya. Together we call it by single name called pathya nirdesham. So many things, but here apart from or beyond and over all these conventional meanings, here it is used in a highly generalized way, a highly generalized manner. That means it is something like hitam, one way of explaining it. The classical explanation for pathyam is pathyam padho anapedam yad yachoktam manasa priyam. Pathaha anapedam. Pathaha anapedam. Sharira margad anapedam. Sharira margad or srodo rupad sharira margad anapedam. Anapedam means anapakarakam. So something which is anapakarakam, not harmful to srodo rupad sharira margad anapedam. Something which will not hurt, damage or challenge the integrity of the system of srotas inside. Patham is pathway. So that is known as pathya. Something which is hitam for patham is known as pathya. At this point we can find Arunadatta explaining little bit interesting points like Krishna Shariram itself is considered as patham, pathway, way, route. So Krishna Shariram can be considered as patham. So that way something which is hitam for patham will become hitam for Krishnam Shariram. So sarva sharira anupakhadi pathyam iti bhavati. That is one option. Then kimva swastha swasthya rakshanam adura vyadhi parimokshascha iti pantha. That way also we find in Charaka Samhita at one point Ayurveda itself is explained as Hedulinga Ushadhatnyanam Swasthadura Parayanam. Parayanam. Param, the best ayanam, way. So there also that way is known as patham. So Swasthadura Parayanam is Ayurvedam. So that way something which suits to the swastha and something which suits to the aswastha. Swastha adura parayanam. Aswastha is adura. That is also known as pantha, and tasmad anapedam, something which is beneficial, something which is not harmful for this swasthya samrakshanam, and adura vyadhi parimoksham is also known as pathya. So these are all the meanings or shades of meaning in different ways of explaining pathya. And when we say that mishram pathyam apathyam cha, still one more meaning we have to understand. While explaining the annaswarupam or even that dravadravyam, we will find the pravara and avara in each group explained. Sharkarekshu vikaranam bhanitam cha varavare, or this Shimbi Dhanyam, it is Mudgam, Avaram is Masham, Shashtigo Vrihishu Shreshtaha. Like that, we find the Pravara and Avara explained. So that also can be considered as the meaning of Pathyam and Apathyam here. Something which is Pathyam means something which is good for health, which can be consumed as a safe stuff. Whereas Apathyam means something which cannot be used with that sense of safety. So when this Pathyam and Apathyam, Hitam and Ahitam, this something which is can be used on a regular basis and something which should not be used on a regular basis, when they are mixed together and consumed, then technically that is a wrong way of doing thing, and that will be called as samasanam. From everyday life, I think we may be able to see many examples of samasanam. I do not know how we all survive despite this practices of samasanam. I think sometimes it may be even the worst thing can become satmyam, no, at one point. So that may be the reason. See, for example, Shali. Shali is supposed to be a pathya for day, which is good for everyday use. Pathyam, it is pathya. Whereas Masham is avaram. It is an apatyaharam. So when this Shali and the Masham is mixed to make recipes like idli or dosha, and we eat it, it is actually becoming samasanam. It is becoming samasanam. Similarly, see the plain water which you take from a good well is pathyam, kupam. Then another water which is boiled, kept overnight, and next day morning, which is supposed to be apathyam. When we boil the water, keep it overnight, next day morning, okay, it is cool, then you add some plain water into it and use, which may be very common, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. That also is becoming a samasana that way. So many things are happening. I do not know whether our satmyam is helping us in overcoming these sort of issues, or we do not know whether it is actually causing some problem or not. Sometimes some other vyadhyavastha or vikara which we suffer could be having their or its original root in these sort of practices, because our concept of eating has changed completely. Even Ayurvedic people are not taking any of the Ayurvedic points in their own eating habits into consideration. We are all running after how many calories are there, or how many protein is there, how much fat is there, even in the fat itself, how many trans fat is there, or which all vitamins are added in it, all these things. So it is not about this pathyam apathyam or ushnam sheetam or viruddham or nothing like that. So when this pathyam and apathyam is mixed, it is known as visham, samasanam. And something which is pathyam apathyam, can we say that okay, then you can eat apathyam alone, that may be safer? Is it so? That comes under viruddhasana. Hemadri takes that point into consideration. He expects this question. So that is about samasana. Then we find adhyasanam. Vidyad adhyasanam bhuyaha bhuktasyopari bhojanam. Bhuktasya upari bhuyaha bhojanam. Bhuyaha bhuktasya upari bhojanam. That is known as adhyasanam. Bhuktasya upari bhuyaha bhojanam adhyasanam vidyad. Bhuktasya, again, what is the meaning? Upari bhojanam, eating over. Over what? Bhuktasya. Already had a meal, then again taking another meal, and then it becomes adhyasanam. So no more explanations. So there are many misinterpretations possible. Like you had your breakfast, then by lunchtime you take your lunch. So it is becoming bhuktasya upari bhojanam. Is it so? So is it going to be a ashana dosham, taking breakfast, and then after some time by noon you are taking your lunch? So it is bhuktasya upari bhojanam. So that needs an explanation. What is the meaning of these things? In the last session, we explained that classically in our olden days, the texts are written with a notion that there can be two annakalas. Again, we find many descriptive areas in this Arunadatta Vyakhya. Coming to Hemadri, I think it is very interesting. Bhuktasya, Hemadri explains. Bhuktasya means pragabhyavahritasya annasya pagabhavad amashaya eva sthitasya. That is very, very important understanding. I find a message in the screen that I am not audible. Can I be heard? Nilesh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay.
Ask them to rejoin.
Fine, fine, fine. I hope somebody is listening to that. Okay. Yes. So Hemadri explains it as Bhuktasya pragabhyavahritasya annasya pagabhavad amashaye eva sthitasya. When such a situation comes and then eats over it, upari urdhvam अन्यद अन्नम आधीयते यद तद भुक्तस्योपरि भोजनम पूर्वान्नशेषे भुक्तम इत्यर्थः. That is the core concept of it. Purvannasheshe bhuktasya. And he gives the pramana for that from Charagam as well as Sushrutam. Charagam Purvannasheshe tu punaha bhuktam adhyasanam matam. From Sushrutam Ajirne bhujyate yattu tad adhyasanam uchyate. So he brings the pramana also for that. In that Aruna commentary also these things are explained, but it is very elaborate. Aruna tries to quote Sushrutam here. Pragbhuktasya upari. Upari means samanandarameva. Vanhau avibhakte yadasanam tadeva adhyasanam. So we had one meal and that is normally getting processed by the Agni, and when that processing is incomplete, it is still going on. That vibhajanam, Sarakitta vibhajanam is not complete. That is vanhau avibhakte yadasanam tadeva adhyasanam. And he also brings a pramanam for that. Pragbhukte tu avibhakte gnau dvirannam na samachare from Sushrutam. Pragbhukte tu avibhakte gnau dvirannam dvirannam na samachared. And to this context, we should always remember that all these things are written basically with the concept that there are two Annakalas. And Aruna brings, even Hemadri also, brings Sangraham to this context. Because in Sangraham, Vakbhada makes an observation, very interesting observation, considering that there are two Annakalas. Pradarashettu ajirnepi sayamasho na dushyati. So that is actually some sort of a exemption for what we have seen, because whether it is prataha or sayam, bhuktasya bhojanam, and it is ajirna bhojanam is adhyasanam. Still, he is giving or trying to give an exception regarding this. What is that? Pradarashettu ajirnevi sayamasho na dushyati. Ajirne sayamashetu pradarasho hi dushyati. Even if annam is taken in the evening meal time with improper or incomplete jarana of the morning meal, it is not going to be dushti. It is not going to be dushtam. Whereas ajirne sayamashetu pradarasho hi dushyati. Whereas if you consume your morning meal when the last night's dinner is not jirnam, that is going to be dushtam. That pradarasha, that morning meal is going to be dushtam. So when this statement is given, I can hear, or Vagbhada can hear, or anybody can hear the question, why? What is this? When you are making such a statement, you are supposed to explain it. Why? Because it is against the rule. This is Vidya Adhyasanam Bhuyo Bhuktasya Bhojanam. This is Adhyasanam. So why do you make such a contradictory statement that you can take your evening meal, that means the dinner, even if your breakfast is not fully digested? But if your dinner is not fully digested, you are not supposed to take your breakfast. Then he is giving his version of explanations. What is that? Vagbhada makes a statement, a document. Diva prabodhyaderkena hrudayam pundarigavad. In the morning, you see hrudayam pundarigavad prabodhyate. The hrudayam, chedana sthanam, like a lotus, awakes in the morning by the influence of the sun. Tasmin vibuddhe srodamsi spudatvam yanti sarvasha. When the heart is alert, Hridayam is alert. When I use the heart, don't think that it is the muscular heart or whatever it is the Chedana Sthana. It may be muscular heart, it may not be muscular heart. I'm just making a word, that's all, for Hridayam. That's all. When that Hridayam is Vibuddham, all the Srotas everywhere in the body attains Spudata. Spudatvam yanti. Spudata, clarity, purity. They all become patent, clear. Moreover, added to this, vyayamacha vicharacha vikshiptatvacha chetasaha. Vyayamad, due to various actions. Vyayama, vicharat, due to various movements. And chetasaha vikshiptatvacha, and due to the different activities of the mental plane. So in short, mental and physical activities. Na kledam upagacchandi diva tenasya dhatavah. Generally, the dhatus of the body do not reach or go to a stage of kledam. All of them are clean without any kledam. Aklinneshu annam asaktam anyatteshu na dushyadi. When the situation is like that, aklinneshu annam asaktam anyad teshu na dushyati. Aklinneshu teshu, that means in to those dhadus which are aklinnam, without any kledam, anyad annam asaktam, when you add the next meal in the evening, tad na dushyati, that annam, that dinner is not becoming dushtam. And giving an example, avidagdheshviva payassu anyat sammishritam payaha, as if you are adding some fresh milk to another avidagdheshu payassu, another glass of fresh milk. Vidagdham, something which has started fermenting as far as milk is concerned. So into an unfermented fresh milk, you add some more fresh milk. There is no issue. That is safe. They will mix easily together without causing any sort of a change in their character. So practically, pradarashetu ajirnevi sayamasho nadushyati. Whereas in the other situation, ratrau tu hridaye mlane samrideshwayaneshu cha parikledam yandi koshte samride dehadhatavaha. In the ratri, hridayam is mlanam, that vibuddhavastha is gone. Sun sets outside and hridayam, that chetana, sets in the body. And when that happens, mlana hridayata samrudeshu ayaneshu cha, all the srotas in the body all over, they become samvritam. Samvritam means closed. Vivritam means opened up. And as a result, koshte samvride dehadhatavaha parikledam yandi. Koshta is also a srotas. So koshtam is also samvritam. So there is no processing happens in the koshtam. So what happened? Dehadhatavaha parikledam yandi. There is setting up of parikledam in the dehadhatu. And klinneshu anyad apakveshu teshu asiktam pradushyati. Klinneshu apakveshu teshu asiktam anyad annam pradushyati. So in such a situation where the dhatus are klinnam, koshtam is klinnam, when you add anyad annam in the morning, that pradushyati, that annam goes to the level of dushti. Like Giving a example. Vidagdheshu payasu anyad payastapteshu vivarpidam. Tapteshu vidagdheshu payasu arpidam anyad payaha iva. Boiled, and the milk which is boiled and started fermenting by sitting, to that fermenting milk you add fresh milk, and you cannot expect this fresh milk which you have added will not be spoiled. That also will be spoiled. So naishe tasmad ajirnene nanyad bhunjida bhojanam. So when the night meal is ajirnam, don't go for your next day's morning meal. Ajirne sayamasetu pradarasho hi dushyati. Please connect it with that ashraddha hridyatha shuddhepyudgare rasasheshatah shaida kinjidevatra. That sort of explanations and advices which we have seen earlier. So that is adhyasanam. Adhyasanam is adhyasanam bhuyaha bhuktasyopari bhojanam. That is adhyasanam. Now we see the third one, that is akale bahu chalpam va bhuktam tu vishamasanam. Akale bahu chalpam va bhuktam tu vishamasanam. Here also there are issues. It is something like a akala bhojanam. Akale bahu cha alpam va. It doesn't matter whether the quantity is bahu or alpam, but when you are eating in akalam, that is becoming vishamasana. So actually it is quite a puzzling thing, because you have to understand which is kalam, then only you will understand which is akalam. There is a textbook standard for kala bhojanam, which we will see, say, in the next couple of pages. We will find it. But practically, there may be, or there can be, lot of differences, subjective differences. So how can this issue be addressed? Please see what Hemadri explains regarding this point. That is really sensible, really sensible. See, जीर्णे पूर्वाह्ने यद अप्राप्तकालं तद विषमासनम्. जीर्णे पूर्वाह्ने यद अप्राप्तकालं. So the purvannam is jeernam. Still the kalam is not reached and you are eating, then it will become vishamasana. He is presenting the difficulties. Adhyasanam tu ajirne. Please understand the difference between adhyasanam and vishamasanam as explained beautifully by Hemadri. Jeerne purvanne yad apraptakalam bhojanam tadu vishamasanam. Purvannam is jeernam, but next anna kalam is not reached, still you are eating. Then that is known as vishamasanam. It is an akala bhojanam. And if you eat when the previous meal is not jeernam, then it is becoming adhyasanam. So there are conflicting ideas sometimes, because how ceremoniously we can follow all these things. especially regarding the Kala Vyavastha. Hemadri is very sensible and very intelligent in settling the issue in a very practicable manner. He is doing the effort to clarify the point like this. Nanu prasrishte vinmutre ityadina jirna annatvasya eva kalatvam vakshyati, which we are going to see later. Tal kadham aprapta kalatvam. He is putting a question himself. Ma evam. Next statement is the most important, the gem of a statement here. What is it? Yo hi yada pratyaham bhunkte sa tasya bhojana kalaha. That is the most important part of it. This is what we call as personalized approach or customization. Yo hi yada pratyaham bhunkte satasya bhojana kalaha. It is true that the textbook gives us about some idea or some strong suggestions regarding the annakalam. True, we accept it. But while putting that suggestion into real-time practice or real-life practice, there is a sort of conditioning with every individual. Nobody can eat looking at the ahara kala lakshanas all the time, because basically eating is an instinctive procedure which is so natural. So nature leads, not the nurture. Of course, the other formalities can be decided or designed by the nurture. How to eat, how to sit while eating, where to place different dishes, what to do before eating a meal. All things can be part of some sort of a civilization, culture. So it is all nerves. But instinctive is there. That is, when I am hungry, I have to eat. And that may change. How can you define that? Okay, okay, in each and every meal time. So that is how the issue is addressed by Hema. Yo hi yada pratyaham bhunkte satasya bhojana kalaha prasrishta vinmutratvadigam tu tasyaiva visheshanam. So we should condition the body in such a way that by reaching or getting onto that bhojana kalam, all these elements should coincide naturally or spontaneously. Thus the system should be trained in such a way. So it's a conditioning. Body has got that flexibility. That is how we condition our bodies to eat 3 meals, where the classical style was to go for 2 meals. But of course, there are limitations and there are limits for these sort of manipulations, which should be taken for granted. But at the same time, the system has got a wonderful range of flexibility. So, yo hi yad pratyaham bhunkte satasya bhojana kalaha prasishta vinmutratvadigam tasyaiva vishishtam So when comes, all other faculties, all other features also coincide with it. Prasrishta vishiste swakale bhojanam kala bhojanam. Very clear. Prasrishta vishiste swakale. I train myself to eat my by 1:30. Okay, no problem. So by 1:30 should touch the other lines, other targets as well. Then it is time became 1:30, but this is not happening. Then there is a match. I'll read it once again. Lunchtime. But Purvannasya ajirnatvad, previous meal is not digested properly, and so Anulpanneshu prasrishtavinmutratvadishu, even though the lakshanas of prasrishtavinmutrattvadiga is not happening, and still bhojanam, taking the next meal, is known as adhyasanam. Purvannasya jirnatvad ulpanneshu teshu, teshu means prasrishtavinmutrattvadishu, swakale bhojanam vishamashanam. That is the difference. I'll read the second line once again. Purvannasya jirnatvad, the first meal, the previous meal got digested completely. Then utpanneshu api teshu, and prasrishta vinmutratvadi features also came, but aprapte swakale, but it is not 1:30, but I am eating. That is a akala bhojanam, and it is known as vishamashanam. I hope the idea is clear. Because otherwise, Hemadri shows many things. You cannot judge. You cannot do many things. Hastane jirnaya vanne snehocha shuddhe bahu stamanak shuddvado ananno madhyama. All these things cannot be done practically. There will be many issues. So that idea is very clear. And even if you are taking 4 meals a day, doesn't matter. Make sure that by the next time your kalam and the prasishta vinmutratvadi lakshanam, they coincide, they match. Then you are safe. That annam is safe. There is no risk of any asanadosha-janya vikaras. Okay, I hope it is clear. I think here the sensibility that the Hemadri shows is extremely commendable, no doubt. Then couple of more things he brings to our notice. Akale bhuktam vishamashanam tad dvividham. One, aprapta kalam. Two, adita kalam cha. Aprapta kalam, adita kalam cha. Amatrashanam api akale bhuktam vishamashanameva. Tasmad kale yad amatraya bhujyade tad amatrashanam. Kale yad amatraya bhujyade tad amatrashanam. Akale matraya amatraya va bhujyade tad vishamashanam. That is also a way of explaining it. Akale, so doesn't matter whether you are eating according to the matra or not. If it is akalam, it is known as vishamashanam. It is not worth whether you are eating in the kala or not. Even if it is on your perfect kala, if the matra is not taken into consideration, then it is known as amatrasana. So all these ideas are to be understood properly, practiced properly, and propagated properly. Then what is the problem with these three habits of samasanam, adhyasanam, and vishamasanam? That is what we are seeing in the fourth line. Trinyapyedani mrityum va ghoran vyadhin srujanti va. Trinyapyedani mrityum va ghoran vyadhin srujanti va. Trini api edani. Edani trini api. All these three practices mrityum srujanti, ghoran vyadhin va srujanti. So it can srujanti, it can cause the genesis of mrityu, maranam, or ghora vyadhi, grave diseases, and we find two va. So it may be even combined. Ghora vyadhi which will lead to death. So it can be death, it can be ghora vyadhi, it can be ghora vyadhi which will later lead to death. Trini apyedani mrityum va ghoran vyadhin srujanti va. No more explanations, only a single line statement. And we have to read between the line, and we have to put our personal experiences in day-to-day clinical practice while searching for the nidana vishesham of each anukta vyadhis. Especially there are many ukta vyadhis where these sort of specific nidanas are mentioned already. Say for example in grahani chikilsidam in charakam, we have mentioned it n number of times. Abhojanad, ajirnadi, bhojanad, vishamashanad. Like that we find, or we have seen it. But there are many other situations. There are many other situations where they need not be specified. Even the nidan, the vyadhi type, you may not be able to make out exactly what is this. Then you will be looking for the vigara prakriti, adhishthana and this nidana vishesham. In such situations, when you are dealing with strange or extraordinary anukta vyadhis, these ideas should be kept always in your mind. Trinyapyedani mrityum va ghoran vyadhin srujanti va. So there are many things to read between the lines than to read on the lines or with the lines. See how unique is the concept of how to eat healthy in our basic concepts. So somebody can become a, see, if you read this Matrashitayam properly, I think you will find the exact applications in Adhisara Chikitsa, Grahani Chikitsa, Arshoroga Chikitsa, Udara Chikitsa, minimum. That means you're going to be a gastroenterologist. When you are fully capable of dealing with Grahani, Adhisaram, Arshas and Udaram, you will become a gastroenterologist in general, and sometimes you can go for a super specialization like a hepatologist or something like that. Everything, the core concepts are derived from Matrashitayam. I do not know how far I succeeded in communicating the core ideas of these three conditions. Anyway, I think it is 8:58. So I think we will call it a day now and continue in our next session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. I think you have covered almost each and every concept of this Viruddhahar and conveyed to each one of us. Thank you once again for that. We will take few queries. Vaidya Prasham has commented, can we consider Pathyam and Apathyam subjective terms? If so, can Apathyam be Satmyak?
Fine, right. The question is, can we consider Pathyam and Apathyam as subjective terms, and if so, can Pathya be Satmyam at one point of time? Okay. Pathyam and Apathyam cannot be taken in a subjective sense. It has got objective sense, objective meaning. Because here, the reason is the basic nature and response of the Sharira is universal. So when you say that, as we mentioned earlier, when Patha indicates the entire Krishnam Shariram, Patha indicates Krishnam Shariram, and obviously Pathyam represents something which is suitable for the entire Shariram as the basic meaning of Pathyam. It cannot be subjective. It is objective and universal. It applies to all persons, all shariras alike. But the second question is, can Apathya be Satmyam? Answer is yes. Apathya can be Satmya. Many a times, many Apathyas are Satmya. Very simple things sometimes. See, these practices what we were explaining now, Adhyasanam, Vishamashanam, all these things we are doing it, and many a times it has become Satmya even, but that doesn't mean that they are safe. Satmyam, all Satmyam are not safe. All Pathyam are safe. All Hitam are safe. But all Satmyam need not be safe. Satmyam is something which is familiarized by continuous practice, especially from very younger age. But that need not be Hitam or Pathyam all the time. I hope that is clear. There may be many examples. Smoking may be Satmyam. Then Divaswapnam may be Satmyam. Madhyana Snanam may be Satmyam. Ratri Jagaranam may be Satmyam. But they are never going to be Pathyam. They are never going to be Pathyam. Okay. So that idea is clear. Then which is the question that we have to answer today?
The next question, is Kal related to Bodh?
Is Kala related to Kshuddbodha? Actually, that idea, I did not get the question very clearly. Can you explain it directly, Prasham?
So I was related to, like, when we have Kshuddbodha, can we consider that as the kala for eating food, like?
That need not be. That need not be. That is why we were explaining that Dushta Bubhuksha in our last session.
Yeah, got it, sir. Got it, sir.
Got it.
The
So there
Dushtava
may
books are from the last one. Right,
yes,
right.
yes. So that need not be the kala exactly.
Right, sir.
Okay. Yes.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Fine.
The next question, sir, for yama, which is taken as standard kala for pachana, is this time for ahar pachana or dosh settling down in its own sthana after ahar pachana?
Yes, that's also a good question. The problem with it is that, okay, this 4 yama or 3 yama or whatever it is again considered as a standard average time, but that need not work with everyone. That is why this Hemadri explained it in a different way, which we already saw, that how the subjective or individualized version of this kala should be taken into consideration while judging all these things. Yohi yada pratyaham bhunkte satasya bhojana kalaha. So that should be taken into consideration. And when this standard kala is taken, okay, in the textbook, when this kala, let it be 4 yama,
Prasad sir, you are not audible, sir.
I had some problem with the audio, am I right? Was I not able?
Your volume is too low, sir. You are not audible, but it's too low.
Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
But
okay. And was the
your
answer which I was clear earlier?
no, sir, not at all audible. That please, if you can repeat from beginning, sir, the last question.
Fine, fine. I'll do that. I'll do that. So the question was very sensible question. That means whether the 4 yama or 3 yama or whatever it is, which is taken as a standard kala for bhajana, is this the time for the just the ahara bhajana or the dosha settling down on its own sthana after the ahara bhajana? What is the difference? That is the important point. When just the ahara bhajana is over, we should make a point that it is not the next ahara kala. Still we require some more time. The system needs more time, because immediately after the Saragitta Vibhajana, many other things are happening, as if something like a post-operative cleansing procedures in that situation. So that also should be completed. Then only the next ahara kala comes, even if the jirnata completed in advance. So whether this 4 yama is the time for the pachana or the completion of all the procedures and next ahara kala is a question which is to be decided on the merit of the situation. There is a lot of subjectivity and matter of conditioning in it. What the textbook has mentioned is, it is the time for the next ahara pachana. Sorry, ahara kala. It is the next ahara kala. But while making decisions in an individual case, you will have to be more sharp, more precise in looking for those symptoms which tells us that there is jirnaharata and dosheswapathage, then that vishuddhe cha udgare, vishadakarane, all these things are also achieved. Then only the system is ready for the next meal. Okay. Was it clear this time, the sound?
Yes, sir. You are clearly audible now.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It's now 9:10.
Yeah,
So I think we will, yeah, wrap our session and continue in our next session, sir.
yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Shubharatri.
Bharatri to all of you.